You're already stressed because rent is late. Then suddenly, you see a paper taped to your apartment door. In big, bold letters, it says, "Vacate the property." Your heart immediately starts beating faster. You rush inside, wondering, wait, can they actually throw me out right now? Do I have time? Can the landlord legally remove my things? Can police show up tonight? And honestly, this is one of the most terrifying situations many Americans ever face, because housing is not just about money, it's about safety, survival, family, stability, dignity. The fear of losing a home can make people panic emotionally within seconds, and sadly, a lot of tenants do not fully understand their rights until they are already facing eviction. But here's something important. Landlords also have rights, and many landlords are struggling too. Some are trying to pay mortgages, taxes, maintenance costs, insurance, repair bills. So eviction situations often become emotionally intense for both sides. Try and watch this video to the end, because we're going to break this entire situation down step by step. From what landlords can legally do, what tenants can legally do, how eviction actually works, when actions become illegal, and what punishments can happen when laws are broken. And we're going to explain everything in very simple words, no complicated legal language, just a real explanation of how eviction situations work in America. Remember that this video is for educational purposes only and is not legal advice. Housing laws vary depending on the state and situation. Speak with a licensed attorney or housing professional for legal help. Please subscribe to this channel, turn on notification, and like this video, and tell us what topic you want us to talk about in our next video. Okay, so grab your pen and pay close attention. Most evictions do not begin with screaming arguments. They usually begin quietly. One late payment, then another. Maybe someone lost their job. Maybe medical bills appeared unexpectedly. Maybe inflation made life too expensive. At first, tenants often believe, "I'll catch up next month." But then the landlord starts calling. Messages become more serious. Emails increase. And eventually, a formal notice may appear. This is where the situation officially becomes dangerous, because once legal notices begin, the eviction process may already be starting. Now here's something extremely important many renters don't know. In many situations, a landlord usually cannot legally force someone out immediately just because rent is late. And that surprises many people, because fear makes situations feel more immediate than they legally are. Eviction is often a legal process, meaning there are usually steps landlords must follow first. So let's talk about landlords first, because honestly, a lot of people online act like landlords have no rights at all. That's not true. Landlords have legal rights too. For example, landlords generally have the right to collect rent, enforce lease agreements, remove tenants through legal eviction processes, protect their property, take action against major lease violations. Now, important, even though landlords have rights, there are still legal limits on how they use those rights, and this is where many legal problems begin. Some landlords become angry and try to force tenants out illegally. For example, changing locks, shutting off electricity, removing belongings, threatening tenants, physically intimidating people, entering without proper notice in some situations. And in many places, those actions may actually be illegal. That surprises a lot of renters, because fear makes situations feel completely powerless. But landlords usually still must follow legal eviction procedures instead of trying to force tenants out emotionally or physically. Now honestly, illegal lockouts create some of the ugliest landlord-tenant conflicts, because once someone feels their home is being taken unfairly, emotions explode very quickly. Let's slow down for a moment and talk properly about tenants' rights, because honestly, this is where fear causes many people to make terrible decisions. The moment renters hear words like eviction, court, notice, removal, many immediately assume, "I have no power. I'm finished. The landlord can do anything." But that is not always true. In many situations, tenants still have important legal protections, and understanding those protections can completely change how someone handles an eviction situation. Now, important, having rights does not mean a tenant can permanently avoid consequences forever. That's not realistic. But the law often still requires landlords to follow proper procedures, and those procedures matter a lot. One of the most important tenant rights is the right to proper notice. This surprises many people because some renters think landlords can legally show up randomly and say, "You have 1 hour to leave." In many situations, that is not how the legal process legally works. Depending on the state and situation, landlords often must provide written notice before moving forward with eviction. And usually, that notice explains what the problem is, how long the tenant has, and what actions may happen next. For example, unpaid rent, lease violations, property damage, unauthorized occupants. Now, the amount of time tenants receive can vary depending on the state, the lease agreement, the type of violation. But the important thing is this: the legal process often requires notice first. And honestly, a lot of renters panic before even understanding what the notice actually means. Now, here's something many tenants don't fully realize. Landlords also have responsibilities. A landlord usually cannot collect rent while completely ignoring dangerous living conditions. For example, severe mold problems, broken plumbing, no heating during freezing weather, major electrical hazards, unsafe structural conditions. Now, exact legal protections vary by state, but generally, rental properties are often expected to meet certain safety standards. And honestly, this becomes a huge issue in low-income housing situations. Some tenants feel trapped living in unhealthy environments because they fear eviction if they complain. Now, not every maintenance problem automatically gives tenants legal protection, but serious habitability issues can create legal disputes between landlords and tenants.